Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Ball with Jason FinTips, and I'm glad you're here. Before we begin, please note this video is for educational and information purposes only. It is not financial, investment, legal, tax, or insurance advice, and no personalized recommendations are being made. I do hold a CFP, ChFC, and CLU designations, but I'm not acting as a financial advisor, fiduciary, or legal representatives during this session. Any examples I share are hypothetical illustrations of financial concepts. If you need help with your own situation, I strongly encourage you to talk with a licensed fiduciary financial professionals. You can always find my full disclaimers at jasonfintips.com/legal. Now, let's dive into today's topic. One thing we need to pop up here really quick on the screen is this is my full disclaimer. It's available over on my website. And with that, let's hop into today's topic. Today, I wanted to talk about how to build a savings plan for your own financial success. The key, if you're not going to be around for the whole video, the key main things to look at is assess your financial picture, your income, your expenses, your existing savings, and set a strong financial base to understand where you are. Next, set a clear, purpose driven savings goal tied to a timeline and dollar amount. Third, select saving strategies that fit your lifestyle, automation, sinking fund, maybe a 50-20-30 or a hybrid approach. Prioritize building your emergency fund first and then start focusing on your long-term goals. Finally, transition strategically from saving to investing based on your time horizon and what's needed. And with that, we're going to dive in. Saving money is one of the fundamental aspects of financial health, yet many people struggle to develop a system for helping them do this. The reality is there's not a one-size approach that fits everybody. Your financial situation is different, your family's different, your lifestyle is different, which means your savings plan needs to be tailored to fit your needs. And a personalized savings plan is kind of what's needed for a lot of situations. So this is just a guide, some ideas. First thing we want to do is look at assessing our current financial situation. And how we would do that is we do something kind of like a financial audit. We would kind of track our income. We list all of our sources, our income of salaries, side gigs, passive incomes, use some spreadsheets or an app like Mint, you name your budget, personal catalog, something that starts organizing your income so you can start figuring out where it is you're getting paid from. Next, start reviewing your expenses. And this would be categorizing expenses into things like your rent, your utilities, your insurance, which are fixed costs. And then expenses that are variable costs would be like dining out, entertainments, vacations. Start looking at your bank statements for the last 3 to 6 months, even back to a year, and kind of say, hey, what do my spending patterns look like? What are some of these annual expenses? And what are my month to months? I almost look at it, your fixed and your variable expenses. Then you want to take a look at evaluate your debt, identify any outstanding balances, high interest rates, minimum payments, and once again, there's a lot of stuff on this, but start prioritizing your high interest debt before you start increasing your savings contributions. And that's like after you got your emergency fund set up. And then we want to start looking at check existing savings accounts, review how much you currently have saved and where it's being kept. So is it in my savings account? Is it a high yield savings account? Is it in CDs? Is it a money market account? Is it a money market mutual account? Is it in investment funds? How are my money actually being stored? Then, start creating yourself a financial worksheet, a Google sheet, something like this to start tracking all of your table listing your incomes, your fixed and variable expenses, your debts, your savings, so you can start getting a clear picture of where you are. One thing that's get a lot of budgets and people might not realize is how many subscriptions they have. They may not realize how much they're actually costing for dining out. Grubhub is great, but I've seen a lot of people that haven't realized how much money they're actually spending on taking out until they start tracking and go, oh my gosh, I'm spending a lot more money than I had really budgeted for. It's not so much that they didn't want to do that, it's that they didn't understand that the money started adding up quicker than they thought and they hadn't budgeted for those expenses. Other things for shopping, for clothes, a new computer, a new iPad, shop during sales, utilities, electricity, water, ways to cut back, efficient habits, transportation. That's going to be some of the ways you can look at it. But more importantly, in a lot of this is starting to look at a lot of your goals, and there's types of savings goals and contributions. So if you want to say, for example, a good goal might be, I'm starting out, I need to set an emergency fund. How much money do I need to save? Say, okay, I want to have a $6,000 emergency fund. my time needed, I'm going to try to save that over the next year. So I would take 6,000 divided by 12 and get $500 a month that I would start trying to save for a future emergency, for my emergency fund. I also might sit there and say, okay, if I want to take a vacation next year that costs $3,000, I might start saying, okay, we want to take a vacation, and let's just say it's January, and I'm saying, well, in November I want to go. I might start saving $300 a month that I start setting aside for that. If I'm looking for a down payment on a house for a couple of years from now, I know 20,000 is kind of low. There are some great first time home buyer programs out there. You start looking and say, okay, if I need to get 20,000, how many months am I going to have to save to get the monthly savings required to get there? So this just kind of gives you a little bit of idea. And once again, this is just some simple math. Calculate how much you need to save and how many months you're going to take. For example, for the down payment, emergency fund tax. These are some of the things that you should go through and work through and kind of know off the back of your head. And as soon as you do it a couple times, you'll be pretty much set to understand it. Then I wanted to talk about choosing the right saving strategies. Not all systems are created the same. There's different things for different people. Some people have variable income. Some people have biweekly paychecks. Some people get paid monthly. So what you want to do is take a look and figure out the type of budgeting and savings method that you're using. So like a 50-20-30 is for more like a balanced savers beginner budget. Simple, intuitive, covers your needs, wants, wishes, and savings. It's not aggressive for major savings goals. Some people do something like a pay yourself first budget for people who struggle to save consistently. So they want to prioritize saving for themselves before spending on any bills. You also have people that might do a sinking fund for people that get paid in large chunks of money that say, okay, I get paid a large fund, but now I have to kind of set up the sinking funds to go along and pay my bills out of that to help me smooth things out. There's automated savings. There's the envelope cash stuffing systems. There's reverse budgeting. There's also a lot of apps out there for gaming. So I guess the big thing is find a strategy that works for you and helps you meet whatever your goals are. Next, we take a look at, kind of an example here is a freelancer with a lumpy income might use a sinking fund and irregular expenses for irregular expenses like taxes and gifts set up for an automated transfers, retirement savings, and adjust her 50-30-20 plan seasonally based on workloads. So it doesn't have to be one set of, it's like what works for you in your individual circumstances. One thing is, of course, building an emergency fund. Typical places for keeping an emergency fund are like high yield savings accounts, money market accounts, certificate of deposits. Balancing emergency fund with other priorities might start small by savings a fixed amount each paycheck. Prioritize high interest debt. That's one of the big things we want to watch our credit score and our high interest debt. Some common mistakes to avoid. Not having a budget, which means you don't. And a budget is just a plan of where you're going. It doesn't have to go exactly to the budget, but it's more like having an idea of where you're going to go. Sarah, a recent college graduate, struggled to save her money despite earning saving income. She wasn't tracking her expenses, so she overspent dining out on subscriptions. Once she started using a budgeting app, she's able to kind of smooth out and realize how much money she could actually spend during the month. Another one would be an example scenario is someone who's trying to save $10,000 in 6 months for a house down payment. But based on his income and expenses, he's going to be a little too frustrated because that doesn't leave him enough money for his variable cost and other things that he was trying to do. So once again, it's a goal and what is a timetable and achievable. Next, we have something like keeping a savings account and a checking account. So this would be a way of mentally segregating or actually putting separate accounts to say, this is an account that I have for my savings, my checking, my daily expenses. This is the one that's now my savings account. Is in a separate fund. It's money that is separated into the kind of a little bit different buckets. That's where a lot of people get that idea. Common saving mistakes and fixes: not having a budget, setting unrealistic goals, once again, keeping savings and checkings, not automated the savings to yourself. And the other one thing is ignoring inflation, that, savings lose value over time. Investing part of your money in something that's going to be able to keep pace with inflation is also going to be important if you start doing long-term investing. So what's kind of the difference between long-term savings versus investing? So building an emergency fund is better for savings. For an investment is something that you don't nearly need to have as liquid. For saving for a vacation, this might be something you do better for savings because you're going to want that for a vacation. You're not looking to gain value from having the money earn money for you. It's to actually spend. Retirement in 20 years from now, that's something you're probably going to want to say, okay, I'm going to need to put into a retirement account for 20 years. That's something like a 401k or an IRA. Something that's needed for a college fund, like a college fund 529, your state's five states plan, something that might be 10, 15 plus years away. So when to transition from savings to investing, we can take a look at something like an investment type of stock as something that's really high risk. It has best for long term. It does have higher expected returns, but once again, it's typically longer term that you need a holding period on that. Bonds are a little bit more stable depending on what happens on interest rates inside those, but for a medium term bond fund, a little bit supposed to be a little more for income stability. Right now, we actually have some money markets that are paying pretty darn good for the federal funds rate since we're a little higher, and bonds are actually really affected by federal funds and interest rates. So that's something you'd want to talk about, but look, whatever your current savings accounts or CDs are holding in or something like that would be that someone might be looking at for different types of investments to store their value, and you can go shop around all sorts of different banks and things like that. Something that's a comparison of investment risk factors. You might do an index funds. This is something that would be more for a long-term diversified portfolio. It's going to be passive, looking for a longer-term growth period, and high-yield savings account, something that's maybe some short-term. It's short-term savings. You're not really looking to be in there long-term. Could be variable with the interest rates. So if you need money in less than, someone needs money in less than, if an example, a scenario, someone needs money in less than 5 years, keeping something like a high yield savings account or bonds, something that's going to be cash and not taking a long-term risk, might be something that a hypothetical investor or hypothetical plan might take into account. So go through, take a look at some ideas to conduct an own financial audit. Someone needs to take and set your own clear financial savings goals. What would be short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Calculate a monthly savings target on a budgeting, base what you've got and what's affordable and realistic. Look at choosing a strategy of different ways to pay yourself first, a sinking fund, what works with your budgeting, your strategy, your office. This is some things that someone would look at if they were doing that. Knowing when to shift from savings to investing. Evaluate when your savings met an emergency, short-term saving goals, and also make sure to research tax investment accounts for Roths, IRAs, HSAs. I strongly encourage someone to work with a fiduciary financial advisor like a CFP, someone who understands a lot of these things. If you feel overwhelmed, but I think a lot of people with a little bit of research can do a good job in crafting something that really fits their situation based on what their goals and objectives and the situations are. So hopefully this kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of some of the different options that are available for building a personalized savings plan for financial success. It's really just about finding a plan that works within your situation. Thank you very much and have a great day. And once again, we thank you for staying with us this whole time. And we're going to throw our disclosure up here. And bye-bye.